Good morning, students. Your teacher today. I'm Fatenge Caleb, and I'm going to take you through the analysis of poetry. And as you can see in your screen, so I'm going to share with you that today. And straightforward, we start with the next PPT page. And under the analysis of poetry, before you analyze any poem, you must know the meaning of poetry. So by knowing the meaning of poetry, then therefore you can know what you are analyzing. And the poetry is an art or is a form of literary art that uses language to evoke emotions, express thoughts, and convey imagery through the use of various techniques such as rhythm. Now, poetry being an art, therefore that means that it creates people and also creates words to evoke some of the emotions. So through this art, now this is when the poet can be able to convey certain messages or to provide or to evoke certain emotions to people, uh, ideas to people. So apart from that, after knowing the meaning of poetry, next we go to the poem heading. After knowing what is poetry, the next thing you must be able to look or understand is the poem heading. And we usually have the two types of poem heading, and one is a denotative one, and the second one is a connotative. Denotative means that is a literal meaning. That means it is devoid from metaphor or metaphorical or from the hidden meaning. That means that when you just read a poem heading, it's just understandable just the way it has been read. And a connotative one is a metaphorical meaning or a hidden meaning. So when you read a poem heading, it means that it has a certain meaning, which is hidden or the second meaning apart from the meaning you are seeing. For example, you may find a poem having a heading, home. A home may not necessarily mean a place where a person lives, but may give a positive connotation of warmth, comfort, and sense of belongings. And also you can get a poem having something like snake. A snake not necessarily mean the animal, but can give a negative connotations of some evoking feelings of danger, deceit, or fear. Now the snake here has not been used as an animal, but has been used to show fear, to show the feeling of anger, or to show some danger. So those are the types of heading that as a student you should be able to know. When you are reading a poem, you must consider first, is this poem giving us a denotative meaning or is it giving us a connotative meaning? After realizing that, it will help you to analyze the other parts of the poem. And so, because we have known that, we shall go now further to the other part of analyzing our poem. So after knowing the types of heading, that's when now it can also just give you a hint on what the poem is about. Because for example, when you find that a poem is using such a thing like a snake, you will find that now the message inside, or you can guess that the point inside maybe expressing some danger, or maybe expressing some of them or something like that, or anchor. So poem message, get to know what the poem is all about in terms of meaning and themes. Because we have said that poem is an art, therefore it creates words and people to evoke some emotions and also to give some meaning, or to give some of the ideas that the poet wanted to share to the people. So you must be able to identify what is this the poem is talking about. What was the thematic concern of the poet? What was the original idea that made the poet write this poem? So all of these can be termed under the poem message, because every poem has a purpose. Every poem has the purpose to the audience. The meaning of poem can be found in various elements, including the imagery, language, symbol, themes, and overall structure and tone. Poets use elements to convey thoughts, emotions, and ideas, often employing figurative language, metaphors, and symbolism to evoke deeper meanings beyond the literal words. So when we are analyzing the poem, the first thing you should consider is the date of the author. Before you analyze any poem, you must assume that the author is dead, so that you can analyze the poem in your own way. The other part we are going to look is diction. And as you all know, diction is the choice of words. And upper we say that poem is literally art. And that art creates people and also uses words to evoke the emotions. So simply it means the diction, the choice of words that is used to convey certain emotions. The diction of a piece of writing can significantly impact its overall tone and message. Different words carry different connotations, associations, and levels of formality, and the section of a specific words can evoke a wide range of emotions or attitudes. For example, using words like euphoria and serene would create a different tone compared to words like gloomy or melancholy. So we shall move to the other part, and the sixth part is a poem, is a type of poem. So you must identify also what is the type of poem also you are looking at, and the types of poem are classified depending to the form and also the message it depicts. Like for example, a dramatic poetry tells a story using a speech of a character. You can be reading a poem and you find that it is a speech of a character telling a story. So that one qualifies to be a dramatic poetry. And also a lyric poetry is a type of poetry that expresses personal emotions, thoughts, or feelings of the poet. It is often characterized by its musicality, rhythm, and emotional intensity. Lyric poetry is a typical shorter in length and focuses on the individual experiences and subjective perspective. So it is a short like song, usually to express strong emotions. And ode is a poem addressed to somebody. Dirge is a poem which expresses a grief or mourns. Sonnet is a poem with 14 lines with a defined rhyme scheme. So when you find a poem with 14 lines with a defined rhyme scheme, that qualifies to be called a sonnet. And you also have a Shakespearean sonnet. And a Shakespearean sonnet is a poem with 14 lines, but 3 stanzas with 4 lines, each one stanza with 2 lines. So what does that mean? A Shakespearean sonnet is a poem with 14 lines, but with 3 stanzas, each stanzas having 4 lines each, and one stanza with 2 lines, of which we can term it as a couplet. The poem with two line stanzas with the 2 lines can be called a couplet. So a poem with 3 quatrain and 1 couplet is the Shakespearean sonnet. And we also have an Italian sonnet, which is divided into 2 stanzas. Yeah. So apart from that, after knowing the type of poem, next we go to the structure of a poem. And according to the arrangement, and that is according to the arrangement and divisions of a line in a poem. And as I said earlier, a poem with 2 lines is called a couplet. With 3 lines is called a tercet. With 4 lines is called a quatrain. And that's why I say that a Shakespearean sonnet has a 3 quatrain. That means that has 3 stanzas, each having 4 lines, with a couplet, each stanza, the stanza having 2 lines. So that's why I qualified it and called it a Shakespearean sonnet, and I differentiated it from sonnet, because sonnet is just a poem with 14 lines with 1 stanza, but with also a defined rhyme scheme. So with 5 lines is called a link 1, and 6 lines as a set, 7 lines being called a stitch, and 8 lines being called an octave. So that is all about the structure of the poem. And also after you have been able to identify that, then you can easily continue with the next step, and that is a tone of a poem. So now when we are looking at tone of a poem, this refers to the attitude or emotion disposition of the writer or narrator towards the subject, characters, or the audience. So the tone is the attitude or emotion disposition of the writer, not of the reader, but of the writer. That's why I want you to note that down. Is the attitude or emotion disposition of the writer, of the narrator towards the subject matter. An example of the terms used to describe tone can be playful, can be serious, can be sarcastic, can be optimistic, can be melancholic, and melancholic is a tone that conveys sadness, longing, or a sense of nostalgia. It often creates a relative introspective mood. And now, as after knowing the tone, we shall go to the mood. And mood now, in literature, refers to the emotional atmosphere of the overall feeling created by within a piece of writing. It is the atmosphere that the reader experiences when engaging within with the text. Now, the difference between mood and tone, we find that mood this is now the general atmosphere that the reader experiences while reading, while tone, this is the attitude or emotional disposition of the writer or the narrator towards the subject, towards something that is being talked about. But mood is what now the reader is getting, is experiencing. An example is is joyful, is another also term that can be used to describe mood is gloomy. After that, we shall go and look at the poetic devices. And under poetic devices, I will not explain them, but I will give it to you to students so that you go and also have some research about them. So the first thing you should look at is simile. Get to know what is simile, how they function, and also the example of similes. We also have anaphora, we have oxymoron, we have apostrophe, we have enjambment, we have metaphor, and also we have personification. Having reached to that point makes us to the end of the lesson, and I'm so much proud to be teaching new students. This is a very interactive class, and I will be also looking forward to see you having done my assignments on time. Thank you so much. I'm your teacher, Fatenge Caleb. See you next time.